Imagine being tormented by your own reflection, feeling alienated from your body. Michelangelo once wrote, "I know I am ugly." His nose was broken, crushed into his face, giving him the look of a beggar. Despite, or perhaps because of, his self-perceived flaws, he dedicated his life to the pursuit of sublime perfection. He couldn't change his own appearance, but he would ensure his David became the standard by which male beauty would be judged. But Michelangelo's David is more than just a depiction of physical perfection. Michelangelo believed he was a tool of God, not merely creating sculptures, but releasing the figures imprisoned within the marble. He once said he was simply revealing the form that already existed within the stone. Unlike most sculptors of his time, who created clay models and meticulously marked their marble blocks, Michelangelo worked mostly freehand, starting from the front and working back. This approach required the strength of an athlete and the precision of a surgeon. Any slip could destroy years of work. His unfinished pieces give us rare insights into his groundbreaking techniques. To sculpt David, Michelangelo began with roughing out, removing large chunks of marble with a point chisel and a heavy mallet to achieve the general shape. He then switched to a tooth tool and a smaller hammer for detailed modeling. As finer details emerged, he used progressively smaller chisels and drills for deep crevices. The final touches involved refining the surface with a rasp, a type of file, followed by polishing with abrasive pumice stones and leather until the marble was smooth and glossy. His unfinished works reveal the stages of this meticulous process. Tool marks show where he began cutting away the stone, progressing from rough chisel work to delicate finishing touches. These marks, made by Michelangelo's own hands, illustrate how he brought figures to life, seemingly emerging from the stone itself. At just 26 years old, Michelangelo was commissioned to sculpt a colossal statue of the biblical hero, David, for the roof of the Florence Cathedral, 80 meters above street level. Given a flawed and narrow block of marble that had been abandoned for 50 years, he faced immense challenges. 2 other sculptors had attempted to use it, but deemed it unusable. Yet, where others saw flaws, Michelangelo saw opportunity. Due to the marble's limitations, he had to be precise. David had to look to the side. There wasn't enough marble for him to face forward. The contrapposto stance was necessary to fit his legs around a large hole carved by a previous sculptor. The statue also had to be slender due to the marble's depth. These constraints led Michelangelo to create a revolutionary portrayal of David. Traditionally, artists depicted David after his victory over Goliath, triumphant over the giant's severed head. Florentine artists like Donatello and Verrocchio followed this convention. Michelangelo broke from tradition by depicting David before the battle, capturing the tension and contemplation of the impending fight. This shift transformed the sculpture into a powerful metaphor. David isn't about to fight Goliath with brute strength, but with skill and reason. He represents the humanist ideal of the Renaissance, the thinking man, who becomes a hero through intelligence and willpower. Michelangelo captures him at the peak of concentration. Neck tense, thigh muscles flexed, nostrils flared, brow furrowed. He's poised to move, contemplating the challenge ahead with a calculated gaze. The rock is hidden in his right palm, and the slingshot rests over his shoulder, almost invisible, emphasizing that his victory will be one of intellect, Michelangelo's David is a masterpiece of symbolism and anatomical precision. The statue's proportions are intentionally exaggerated, an unusually large head and hands. This wasn't a mistake. Michelangelo, who had dissected cadavers to study anatomy, understood the human body better than most physicians of his time. The enlarged features were designed to correct perspective when viewed from below, as the statue was initially intended to be placed high above. The nudity was unusual for a biblical figure, but reflected the Renaissance celebration of the human form, inspired by ancient Greek and Roman art. Representing the body became a measure of artistic genius. However, Renaissance Europeans weren't entirely comfortable with public nudity in art. To protect David's modesty, city officials added a garland of 28 gilded copper leaves. And later, a fig leaf was used, a practice common in the 19th century. Curiously, David, a Jewish hero, is depicted uncircumcised. This aligns with classical depictions and the Renaissance practice of placing biblical figures in a Christian and classical context. The small size of David's genitalia was intentional, symbolizing modesty and self-control, contrasting with depictions of figures representing uncontrolled passions. Michelangelo paid extraordinary attention to detail. David has a slight squint. His eyes point in slightly different directions, a technique to engage viewers as they move around the statue. The pupils are carved hollow to capture changing sunlight, intensifying his gaze. The swollen jugular vein indicates nervous excitement, a physiological detail Michelangelo depicted over a century before scientists understood the circulatory system. The veins in his hands differ. The raised left hand shows delicate veins, while the hanging right hand's veins are more pronounced. Exactly how blood flow affects our bodies in those positions. These details highlight Michelangelo's profound understanding of human anatomy and his commitment to realism. So, what if Michelangelo's David isn't just a sculpture, but a political statement carved in stone? Placed in the heart of Florence, instead of the cathedral roof, David became a symbol of the Republic's defiance against powerful rivals like the Medici family and the papacy in Rome. By transforming a flawed block of marble into a masterpiece, Michelangelo not only challenged artistic conventions, but also embodied the spirit of a city striving for independence and intellectual freedom. Could it be that David was Michelangelo's way of giving Florence its own hero? A physical manifestation of courage, wisdom, and defiance? Michelangelo worked tirelessly on David, often in secrecy, dedicating every waking moment to his craft. He rarely ate, seldom changed clothes, and even attached candles to his hat to work through the night. When he finally presented the statue in 1504, the cathedral committee was astonished. They deemed it too perfect to be placed so high, and decided it should stand in the political heart of Florence, the Piazza della Signoria, where a replica still stands today. David's unveiling was met with rapturous acclaim. The Italian historian Giorgio Vasari wrote, "After seeing this, no one need wish to look at any other sculpture or the work of any other artist. Even Leonardo da Vinci, who suggested placing it elsewhere, recognized its significance. Over time, David has become more than a symbol of Florence. It's a universal icon of human potential and artistic genius." Michelangelo's miraculous transformation of marble into flesh and bone brought unprecedented psychological insight and physical realism to sculpture. He continued to create masterpieces throughout his life, outliving both Leonardo da Vinci and Raphael, and died in 1564 at the age of 88, still working. Today, David stands not just as a testament to Michelangelo's unparalleled skill, but also as a reminder of the enduring power of art to capture the complexities of the human spirit. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the heart of Michelangelo's masterpiece. Next time you stand before this colossal figure, remember, it's not just a statue, it's a story of transformation, defiance, and the relentless pursuit of perfection.